Glad you're all here. I got lumped about 10 minutes of the hour. I was worrying, maybe too many people know how to use Evernote. And I think a lot of us know what it is. So I'm going to talk a little bit about it, but I'm not just going to do Evernote. I'm going to do this as a two-part presentation because I have this motto that always do two things at once. So some people change hats. It's nice to wear two hats at once, so you're doing like double duty. So I'm going to talk about Evernote for the first part, and then I'm going to tie it into something called Pocket and show how those can communicate back and forth with one another, and a way in which you can kind of cumulatively build content using those in a particular fashion. Now, does anyone not know what Evernote is? Does everyone kind of know what it is? Okay, so that's kind of good. That gives me flexibility. Of course, you know it can run on any device, and the free version is you can put it on 2 devices. And I think the best place to put it is on your main computer at work and on your phone. And I'll actually justify that in a little bit. However, it's not quite true that you only have it on 2 devices because they have a web portal. You can go to Evernote, the web portal, and you can see all your stuff and add things there. And so it's not quite as constraining as it appears, but you know, whatever major device you would use to do most of your sort of heavy searching and reading and all that in terms of research. Mine's my computer at work, but I've had it on a laptop before, but I just tend to use my work computer more. And my phone's really important because inevitably when you're out somewhere and you have to search for something, your phone gives you some capabilities for searching. And I've got a couple things to say about searching. Some people don't know how to do certain kinds of searching, so I thought I'd talk a little bit about that when the time comes. If you're trying to recommend to someone, they've changed their downloading site. It's much cleaner now. You just kind of go in and download it, either onto your computer or as a web app or something like that. And of course, since everyone here has used it, then you know it's got these different parts to it. All of your tags, when you have an article, you can tag it on the left, and we'll talk somewhat about that. And in the middle, you have your various cards. Kind of a quick index, and then on the right-hand side you have your editing toolbar for what they call your note panel. But I tend to think of them as cards, and they've talked about it as cards like that before. So the first thing you'll note, though, if you put it on your laptop, it looks one way, but if you put it on your phone, it looks the other. And so this is nice for a quick search if you have the app on the phone. And also the way the shares operate are nice when you want to share between apps or store something. So that makes it really handy. But if you're going to do serious kind of looking and searching around, you still want to use the laptop interface because it's just easier to work with. And when you expand all the tabs and sidebars and everything, you can see it all. Where if you're on a phone, of course, and that presents a problem with very limited real estate. It's nothing new. Other interfaces are like that. All right, so one thing I really like about Evernote is it's not just a collection of files, but they have some database-like functions. And most of the magic with that happens with the tags. And so here's a kind of way of thinking of the tags. Good, I got a mouse. Over here on the left side, you can name what tags you will, and you'll notice that here, you can't see it very well, but you can nest tags. And so that's really nice. And they have you press a button, this nest will drop down. And you can, like this, I think it's database. And so I've got ERD, which is a kind of diagram, and then something else for database. And I always put little dots before them because when you add tags, if you add a new note, you add the tags, and you can just type in the tag. And if you hit tab, it'll say, okay, you're done typing with tags. If you hit enter, it'll allow you to just keep adding as many tags as you want along the way. If you have your highest level tags just by names, you can put dots in your subtags, and then if you just type the dot, the subtag will come up automatically, and it will automatically associate it with your main tag. Because if you right click, you can say add new subtag, or you can drag and drop tags into other tags, and it'll automatically subtag them for you. Now I don't have any more than like 2 levels deep. So in other words, this is level 1 is the top, and then have 1 depth. I just don't really need it. But you can get really subtle with this, and if you're a librarian, you just go crazy. Of course, you can tag better than most of it. But nonetheless, it's pretty easy to use. Tags are added, so you probably all do.
Is all this the free version?
Yeah, it's all free. This is the main computer interface. You download this. It looks a little bit different than the other one. So I just snapped this off my computer like last night, right before I came. So if you go down my tags, for example, here's one on drones, right? And so when I search for, when drones comes up, I typed up here, I just clicked on this tab, and up here it types out, well, you got 15 different items on the drone tag, and here they are all listed. If I click on this first one, for example, it brings up this article because this is the tag this article falls under. That could also have another tag somewhere down there called warfare. If I clicked on warfare, it might bring up 8 or 9, and one of them would also be this drone article because it will bring up whatever you put in tags. So you don't have just one tag for one article. It's kind of like a subject tag where each of the subjects can apply in multiple ways. And so that's really nice, and mostly people can figure that out in terms of how it operates. Now the advantage of this is right away, for example, if you read regularly and would like to store things, and you obviously are teaching classes, if a student comes up and says to you, Dr. Montgomery, I'd like to write on drones for my ethics class. Do you have anything on that? Well, they're lazy, of course, but then you just, boom, drop 15 different articles on them about drones and say, here you go. And so it gives them a nice way to start, or you can drop the main article on them and then have them find others that you know are out there. So it's nice to give students a heads up or a head start on either sources or on a paper that they're worrying about on obscure topics that maybe they wouldn't be able to easily find. So I've had real good luck with that.
You can also send them those to your friendly reference librarian.
Yes, yeah. You know, when that's the kind of give them a main article and then they can go a little more.
Yes, a few actually.
Yeah, so it's.
Brent, can you explain the dots again?
Yeah, you could, suppose I have a tag down here called warfare. I could grab it, I could click and hold it and drag it and drop it right on top of drones, and it'd be a sub tag called warfare.
Okay.
Or I could take drones and drag it all the way down to warfare and drop it, then it'd be a sub tag under warfare called drones. So the sub tags allow you to specialize. So I might have, you know, US drones, I might have .us under it. I might have British drones, .british. It depends on how I want to think about drones in this case. So subtags allow you to clarify just by your tagging system more accurate descriptions of what you would find in these notes that you have saved.
Like filters?
Yeah, they're like filters. That's the best way to think of it.
So when you drag, does it automatically put the dot in front of it?
I think it asks you, do you want to do this?
Okay.
And at the end, I can maybe pull up my Evernote if it's possible, and we can mess around with it. I don't know if it's on this machine, so I might be lying. We'll just have to kind of talk through it. But that's how you do it. You can drag them. You can right-click, and it will pull up. You know, do you want to make a sub tag? You just click the little option and let you type them right in. So that's the advantage. And it's really, you know, you get these tags, and each tag has beside a little parenthesis that tells you, well, you got 15 articles or note cards or that you items that you have tagged under drones. And so I have, for example, philosophy, or that's a lot of stuff. Underneath I have philosophy of religion, philosophy of science, philosophy of history. And so when I run across articles off the web, I can cut and paste them. And it just I did here, I cut and pasted that right off the web. I opened my browser, I selected it, copy, paste, there it is. It's very straightforward if you want to do it that way. There's also ways you can do it too, and I'll show you that in a moment. But you can add into your browser Chrome extensions. And so you can have a little tiny icon. It's an elephant icon. And if you click that elephant icon, it'll automatically say, okay, I'm going to save this as a card into your Evernote. And you can just type in the subject and type in the comment, and it'll go in there automatically, even though you don't have the software open. So you just add an extension to your browser, whether it's Chrome or Firefox. I think there's.
So it does work like Pocket then?
Yeah, it works like Pocket. So they're similar, but they do slightly different things, and they play nicely together too, as I'll talk about in a moment. So I think of it as the best, a semi-database way of archiving things you run across on the web. You can also store PDFs in it. You can store MP3s in it. Anything that you can essentially drop into it, it'll allow you to store. I do it all for web items. All right, here's another side of it. Suppose now I go not into my various tags, not drones or something. Now I'm going to go all the way up, and you have notebooks. And so you can have several notebooks with their own tags in it if you'd like, or just notebooks with their own content, all the tags apply to all the notebooks, but the notebooks have their own content. So this is the general notebook. It's got like 2,500 items in it or something. I have a couple little specialty notebooks I've worked on, but this is sort of the main place I keep everything. But sometimes when I'm working on a project, I'll make me another notebook and just put stuff in there. So it's kind of easier to track in my mind. So you can have as many notebooks as you want. So you might have a notebook for just your classes. You got a notebook for just your home stuff. It's however you want to organize them. But mostly I use this for academic resources and source data and all that. So this is, I call it just general notebook. So I got 2,500 cards in my general notebook, which I've clicked on. And up in here in this little search box, I type in title, colon, no space anywhere, God, okay? And so it's going to pull up 13 different notes of the 2,500 that have in the title God. So for example, here's the title of the card. The world is getting more religious because the poor go for God. Here then, it finds that and any other one. Here's why I don't believe in God. Here is God is silverback. Here is can God lie. Here is, and so you've got all these different kind of cards, but it just searches the titles. Then to search the tag, it searches the titles. And so you can say, do you want, if I type in a lot of words here, do you want me to search for all of them together? Anything that's got them individually. So that's kind of nice. It also has the equivalent of a Boolean search. And so, for example, here I've typed in two things. You can't see, it's really small. Still back on my general notebook. I type in, okay, show me every card that has in the title the words robots and killer. Okay, so now it's got to kind of a Boolean and search. It's got to have both things. Well, here it is. Should we stop killer robots? That one's right in there. And you go to every title here, do killer robots vote or something. I can't quite read that, but every title of this card matches up to the title of the card itself. Now, this is the title of the article, but every card also has a title. Notice here, this article has no tags at all. It's in the general notebook because either I forgot to or I was too lazy to tag it. But I'm still able to search what the title is. And so when you save a web page, it automatically puts the title of that in there if you save it using a Chrome extension. So that's really nice. Anything you're wandering around on the web that you look at, it allows you to sort of just right away grab it, store it. You can tag it later, or you can tag it right there with the web extension. But so even though I looked maybe everything about drones, everything about robots, if I just didn't happen to tag it, it's still nice to find it. And so not only can you do this with titles, but you could search any content and just leave out the phrase title. If I just search for robots and killer without the words in title, it'll look at every card, not just the title, but the text inside the card. So if I know, for example, somewhere 2 years ago, I read about something about Little Red Riding Hood carrying an M16, I could type Little Red Riding Hood M16, hit enter, and it would pull up somewhere in that content card of the 2,500 that particular card that had Little Red Riding Hood M16, whatever it was. So it really allows the forgetful person who can remember just enough to know they read something to actually find it again, if indeed they've actually captured it someplace. So that's kind of the advantage it offers. The search advantage is really, I think, the big advantage of Evernote. It's just easy to search, but most people don't know you can search just the titles as opposed to the card. But you just got to leave out space.
It only searches what you put in.
It does. If you just put in robot, it won't find robots.
I mean, or only searches the articles or websites that you.
Yeah, it will only search if you got 2,500 and you're like, I just only search of those. It can pull out the ones you put in. It's not a web search engine.
By technology illiteracy, but it just does it like just put the URL in there, the website, or
you can't. You can save it different. You could save just the URL if you wanted. You could save the whole web page if you wanted. It kind of gives you options on that. I always save the whole.
So if I save the page, I've always got the page, even if it comes down off of the web.
Yeah, this I got
just the URL, and then the page disappears
Or moves.
or moves.
Yeah.
Then I have no.
Yeah, no. If this is
fine.
the URL right there, I think sometimes.
Well, I want to save something as a source for my class.
Yes, you'll
I'll
have
save
that.
the whole page, not
Right.
just the URL.
Right. This is the whole page is saved. It's static and it sits inside of your Evernote. So even if that whole website folds, you've got the content. So that's really nice. Or more likely, they change your URL and they archive it somewhere. We don't have to worry about that because you can still search it. So that's really nice. It gives you that advantage. And of course, you can put all your own stuff in there too. If you are the kind of person that kind of stores things offline and you want to have your own little mini database or notebook or something like that, this was not out when I was doing my dissertation, but you can sure bet that had I been working on a dissertation, I would use this because it just allows you to search and organize things in really good ways. There's websites, excuse me, there's web videos which people talk about how they use it for their dissertation or how they're using it for research. And so they have people who have used it in specialized ways. It's very flexible that way. So that's what I like about it. But just as an archive and search package, it's just really nice, and price is right, it's free. All right, so that's really just the first part. And some of you are probably also familiar with something called Pocket. Does anyone have never heard or not used Pocket? Okay, a couple. Okay, it's good. Pocket's similar to Evernote, but it doesn't have the organization and searching skills. It also can go on a whole bunch of different devices. It's an application and service for managing a reading list of articles from the internet. So you're not so interested in storing them as you are in using Pocket to actually read something. And so it allows you to save an article or web page, one or the other, and there's a distinction between an article and a web page and how it presents it to you for later reading. And so the article is then sent to the Pocket list. It's synced across all your devices. So if you got Pocket on your laptop and Pocket on your computer in the office and Pocket on your phone, any device that you save it automatically updates all the other devices where you save it. So when you can read it later. So you might save it at work, then get on a plane. You can read it on a plane. It doesn't have to be connected to the internet. You can turn on plane mode and all your static content that you save stays there. And if it gets updated somewhere else along the way, it'll update when it can. What I like about it is this part here, it removes clutter from articles. So if you look at the original web page, you get all the advertisements and all that. The Pocket itself just gives you a very basic reading screen, not distracted by blinking this or ads for that or anything. It turns out that's really nice. And you could roll through it and it just makes it easier. And so this is one thing I really like about Pocket. And so as I said, it has a presentation on a laptop that shows you everything that you captured. It generally gives a picture and the title and it gives some little options on it. And so that's kind of nice. You can also, just like in Evernote, you can add an extension to your browser, as I do. So for all you do is once you add the extension, if you see an article you like, you just click it and it'll save it. And if you want, you can open it up by pressing those little 3 dots and it'll give you options. Do you want to, you decide you didn't want it after all because you read it before you actually got to it. You can open Pocket, and when you do an open up Pocket, it's going to give you the equivalent of all of these on a laptop, what you see. So opening Pocket is really a way of seeing, well, what all have I captured? And if you really like it, after you've read it, you can archive it in Pocket and find it later. So Pocket does have an archiving ability. It doesn't have near the searching abilities that Evernote does. And so that's why we want to eventually see how these talk to each other.
So just to clarify one thing, because I actually didn't know about the archiving. So in regular Pocket, if you don't want to see it all the time, because I've read it,
generally,
don't
for
know what to do
example,
with it.
if I read a good article I knew that Ron Wright would like or that you would like, I want to delete it. I'm going to archive it, and then I can open up the archive and just share it with you later when I have time. So it just sits back there waiting. It doesn't get erased from your phone or from your phone, all other devices. It sits in the archive portion.
So when you do a search for your tags, maybe I'll get to this, but I'm like, how you get it back from the archive later.
Right.
So.
If you open up Pocket, it shows you your list of stuff that you've archived. So here's an example of a list I snapped mine last night. Here's articles. And you'll see right there, it has articles. Right above that, you see the word archive. If I click that, it'll show me all the ones I've tucked away and then delete after I read them.
Okay.
That's how you get to them.
Okay.
And so then you can click on them, and you can share them and do all the other kind of things.
So that way you can keep current from just the massive database.
You can.
Okay.
You can tag them, so they have some ability, but it's really a reader, and that's what it does well. And so ultimately then, once you see all this, you see what you have available, and since you've got it here on the browser, which has lots more space, you know good well, you can get to it on your phone. And here's what it looks like on the phone. It just pulls up typically a picture, it gives a title, And the text is just text. There's no other web stuff on there. You can read it at night. You can read it during the day. You can read it in the office. It's got different settings and fonts, and you can make it brighter or not. So that's really nice. So ultimately, it's just built to be a reader. And it captures stuff you want to read. Yes, you can archive it. Yes, you can tag it. But it's not an efficient way to really search everything. So here, you can do anything and grab Pocket that you can see on the web. So if you're a Twitter person, you have other social platforms, or even if you're on Chrome with an extension on it, you can capture that to Pocket. And then if you've read it, you say, man, it's a great article, I don't want to forget about it, then you want to move it into Evernote. And so that's what's so nice, because if you just open up Pocket and you drop down a menu, and generally there's a menu up top. If you press it, the menu appears. It's got the little share option on it. You press share, and then a bunch of apps will come up, like your email or something. But then Evernote, if you've got it on your phone, it will also come up. And so you've just read an article, it's great on economics and sociology. You want to share it with Young. So you just say share, and you press Evernote, and it sticks it right in your Evernote file. Then you say, now I'm going to send this to Young. You press share, then you press email, and I email it directly to him. So it's just very simple once you've read something and you think it's worth it to stick it onto Evernote. And so slowly you're building up content whenever you read anything at any time. And that's really the trick here. Once you drop down the menu, this is kind of what appears. And so I can click, I could click to send it to Facebook, or I could add it to Chrome, or I could send it directly to somebody. They've got their own little internal mail it with a comment deal. And you're clicking on this little share kind of triangle with 3 dots on it. And once you do that, it appears in Evernote wherever you are. So you can imagine it kind of going up in the cloud, and whenever your computer hooks to it, that's what it's given. All right, so that's how they interact. Now, you'll recall that I said I really want to do 2 things at once. So here's another 2 things. So the first 2 things is I've interacted Evernote with Pocket, and I allow anything I read in Pocket I can stick in Evernote. Well, suppose that you exercise every day like I do, and you try to take a walk. So what you're doing is, when you're walking, Pocket has one more advantage, which I really like. It will read to you. So let me show you how this operates. And I find this to be really valuable, because when you operate in a different modality, often it allows you to do things like you're not going to walk holding your phone. That's sort of crazy. But you can turn it on, and it's got a whole new selection of voices. So when I open it up, I drop the menu down. I can hit listen, called TTS listen, and it'll play as I listen. And it's got several different voices. Some of them are quite good, if I can get to play.
The finance dismiss Bitcoin at their peril.
See, that's robotic. They have some non-robotic voices too that have a good sound to them. So I'll play one I have to know is pretty decent. That is male voice 2. Let's try female voice 1. See what it sounds like. So the advantage of this is, if you're doing something, you can walk and enjoy it. And as you're moving through content, this is how I do my research reading. I typically will either get it off the internet, or if you're clever, you can make a secret blog site. Just don't share it with anybody. And you can cut and paste right off a PDF from your local librarian that you've saved the text somewhere, put it on this WordPress site or some simple blog site. Now it's on a blog site. You can just right click it and save all that too. So you can get pretty quick at just cutting and pasting it and going in there. If you decide you actually like it as it's talking to you and you walk, you say, I've thought about this is worth saving. Since your phone is linked to the internet anyway, you just save it right there and it goes back in your Evernote. So as you get into a habit of kind of reading day by day or doing research, whether it's verbally or if it's in terms of reading it on Pocket itself, you're really doing 2 things at once. One, you're either exercising or reading for pleasure or whatever. But 2, you're pre-reading all the kind of research that you're interested in anyway, and that you can save and get to later. So that's why I think of it as kind of a third hemisphere, where if you're a forgetful person, then if you pocket your Evernote, you're not going to forget again, because there it is. So that's my half-hour power right there. Any questions on how it operates, or maybe what you've done with it, since all of you are familiar with Evernote and Pocket?
I'm trying to remember, back in the day, did Evernote have some sort of limit, like about how many times per month you could upload or download, or?
They had a megabyte limit of some sort.
That's what I'm
Is
thinking
how
of.
much, but I've never run up against it because almost always I'm doing articles. I'm
Yeah.
not saving like family pictures or
Oh,
videos.
okay,
or
that makes
anything
sense.
like that.
Maybe they've upped the bandwidth on it,
Or
but you're
maybe-
still on the free service.
Yeah, it's still free.
I think it's 10, right?
10,
10 megs.
I think it's like 60.
Is it now? Okay.
Yeah, it
Yeah, I
was-
probably just haven't looked in a long time, and I'm sure their cloud storage probably is good.
Yeah. And since I'm, if you just use articles and HTML stuff, and you can even save them without saving the pictures and all of that, it's really efficient. So
One really handy thing for me with Pocket was I was doing 2 class preps this year for classes I never taught before. And so one was like Education in America and one was Social Stratification. So what I did was in Pocket, I just created a quick short tag for every class I might be kind of trying to prep. So I would just type in the word education. So if I find an education article,
you tag your
I would just
education.
tag it in Pocket and it would just kind of keep it whatever. And then when I get around to doing class preps, I could go in and pull up that tag
Yeah.
and I'd see every article I'd found on education stuff. And then I could just kind of look through like whatever topic we're going to be doing that week, find the articles that related.
I
And-
assume the tags will go into Evernote after you.
When I share them, Evernote is going to ask me if you share from your phone, it just puts it in Evernote plain. I don't think it picks up the Pocket tags. But typically in Evernote, it takes you
Yeah.
just a couple of seconds to tag them in there. Generally, I'm on there at least once a week anyway, and say, oh yeah, that was the book I wanted. And so I have tag book. You just type BO, and all of a sudden, book comes up. And so it's very quick. It's not onerous at all to put the tags on when you save from Pocket. But you're out somewhere reading on a plane or walking around or something. It's going to be there, and you can get to by the search system very easily if you want to know something in education written by someone named Smith who lived in Uganda. Education Smith, Uganda. Boom, there it is. It comes right up. So it's handy that way. So you don't have to worry too much about tagging in Pocket if you already committed to sharing everything in Evernote anyway. So yeah, Evernote and Pocket works together good in mine, Dale.
I can see using Pocket, getting it in Pocket first, seeing it, and then saving it to read later
Mhm.
to see if I even want to keep it,
Yeah,
and then putting it in Evernote. Because right now I just put everything in Evernote, and then I may never visit it again because it's really not that useful. So now I kind of filter through Pocket.
yeah, I do that. There's nothing in Evernote I haven't read because if it's worth
Yeah.
keeping, then I just share it. So I do the same thing. I Pocket first and Evernote later. So it's really handy that way because then at least oh, geez, enough I saved it, so it must be worth looking at again 2 years later or whatever it is.
So you keep the same article in both?
You could archive it. You could have the same article in both if you wanted, but on your phone there's an Evernote app too, so you can just pull it up in Evernote and say, okay, here it is. So you
And I've
would,
been known to, maybe I should just archive. I didn't know archiving existed. I tended to, in Pocket, once I had taken that link and pulled it into my course in Moodle and had instruction in that, I just deleted it from Pocket.
no, you can
So
archive.
so in other words, like when I hit the tag for education, it was only the articles I had not yet used.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And it was a way of me keeping straight what I'd used and what I hadn't used.
Yeah.
But archiving would probably be smarter because it would just keep it long term.
Sometimes I think, well, I'm going to see so-and-so next couple of days. I'll ask him if he read this article or not. If he hasn't, I'll send it to him. Sometimes it's just really good. You're thinking, do I want to save this or not? I don't know. Maybe I would archive in Pocket.
Right.
So that way, you get to it later if you change your mind. Yeah, so you just roll through them on the phone, and it just rolls through, and you get dozens of them, and gives you the date that you save them most of the time when it captures it. So you can see kind of how far ahead or behind you are in your reading. If you stuff at the bottom of your Pocket is dated April, and here is October, maybe you might want to rethink sort of how you're saving things, or maybe you want to save them as read later. The tags in Pocket lets you do that. So Evernote and Pocket, they overlap, but they're not like perfectly aligned. It just depends on what you want to do with them. My guess is they probably patched their methods or something. It's too bad there couldn't be a handshaking service where they both build all their features into the very same app, because they are quite similar. One does archiving better and one does reading better. So since they're both free, it's not that onerous, especially if you can share between apps. I think that's what makes it so handy.
Very nice. Thank you.
All right.